Hi, this is Daniel Grusso. I'm a product manager on the orchestration group at the configure stage here at GitLab. And today I'll be doing a speed run of two features mainly. I'm going to add a Kubernetes cluster using GKE to my project, and then I'll have it run through Auto DevOps. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I have a sample project. This is a Python store, and I've specifically chosen this project to show how to customize some of the settings around Auto DevOps when they don't work out of the box. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Operations and Kubernetes, and I'm going to add a Kubernetes cluster on GKE. Okay, I'm going to name my cluster Python store. I'm going to give it asterisk for environment scope, so all the environments we'll use it for deployment. I'll select my relevant GCP project, and I'll leave the default nodes and machine type. Okay, let's go ahead and create the cluster. Okay, now that my Kubernetes cluster has been successfully created, I'm going to install a couple of apps. First, I'm going to install Helm, and that will allow me to then release some of the other charts into my cluster. Okay, now that Helm is installed in the cluster, I will go ahead and install Ingress, and I will wait for the Ingress IP address to come back so I can go ahead and use it on my base domain. That will basically allow me to route traffic to my app. Okay, now that I have the Ingress endpoint, I am going to go ahead. I see that GitLab automatically populates the suggestion using nib.io, so I'm going to use that. Just as well, you could use custom domain that you own. You just have to enter a DNS record. But to make it easy, I'm just going to go ahead and use this. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is run Auto DevOps. So this project happens to be part of a group that may not have Auto DevOps enabled at the group level. So I'm going to go to Settings, CI/CD, Auto DevOps, and make sure that I enable it here. Once I enable Auto DevOps, I can specify the deployment strategy that I want to use. So by default, we have continuous deployment to production. And I'm going to change that to automatic deployment to staging and manual deployment to production, just to make sure. I want to check things on the staging environment first. And then once I see that that looks good, I will go ahead and deploy into production. So I'm going to go ahead and save changes. And then after that, I'm going to go to CI/CD and pipelines. And I see that as I activated that Auto DevOps or enabled that Auto DevOps feature, a pipeline automatically kicks off for me, which is great. So let's go ahead and let this pipeline finish and see what other steps we may need to take. Okay, so I see that my pipeline has finished, and I see a couple of failures here that had caused the pipeline to fail. So let's take a look at that. Right off the bat, I see that the test job failed and due to a script failure. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that, and let's figure out how we can solve that. So the selected build pack for Python does not support the test feature. So that means a couple of things. We can either add something to manually test it, or for the sake of testing, we can simply disable the test feature. So let's go ahead and do that. So Auto DevOps allows me to control what jobs run as part of my pipeline through the use of environment variables. So if I go to my project settings and then I move on to CI/CD, I can expand the variable section, and I'm going to add a variable here. The specific one for disabling test is test underscore disabled. So I'm going to get that a value of 1 or set it to true, and then save the variables. So once I do that, what will happen is that the test job will no longer run. The test job in Auto DevOps is not allowed to fail. And since that build pack doesn't support the test feature, the pipeline will stop there. So now that I've disabled test, let's go ahead and run an Auto DevOps pipeline once more. and let's take a look at the outcome. Okay, so I see that my pipeline has finished, and as expected, it's in a blocked state because I have a manual trigger into production. So as soon as I'm ready, I can just execute the production job. But first, let's go ahead and check out the staging environment. So I'm going to go to Operations and Environments, and I should see here the deployment to the staging environment, which I do. That's great. So let's go ahead and open the live environment, verify that everything is to our satisfaction. I don't have an HTTPS certificate here. All right, I see that the deployment was successful, and I see that everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this to production now. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go over to the blog pipeline, and I'm just going to trigger rollout 100% into production. Okay, so I see that my pipeline has finally finished. I see that my rollout to production was successful. I see the rollout 100%. I see that my browser performance testing was also successful. And so with that, the pipeline has finished. Now I did finish with warnings here because my dependency scanning job failed, but that is a job that is allowed to fail. And that has basically to do with the build pack that I'm using. So let's head over to operations and environments. Now we should see the deployments for both staging and production on the board. And I see that that's the case. I see each instance has one pod running. So let's go ahead and take a look at the live production environment. And okay, I see that it looks great. So as you could see in this speed run, while not every build pack supports every feature, Auto DevOps is very easily customizable to support the stages that you may or may not want to use. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time. Bye.